9 days after the Mar-a-Lago search, FBI agents are still sifting through the boxes because we know that there's something illegal there. We know it. We're going to get him this time. So we'll talk a bit about that. Even though that story, I think, is starting to draw itself to a close, but we'll still go over it. In other news, CNN's Harwood admits the climate bill named Inflation Reduction Act as a gimmick to get Manchin on board, which is what most of you guys were telling the rest of the world as soon as it was announced. But we'll go over some of that and what this means and what it means for the American family. In other news, we are finally, and I put it up towards the top of the show today, we are going to go over the abortion case that the media lied about to try to get your sentiment against Roe versus Wade, but we'll go over some of that later on in the show and talk a bit about that and what that means and where we go. And a new MSNBC host goes off the rails because on her immediate first appearance, her teleprompter fails. And we have video. It is going to be all this and more. Welcome back to Midterm Season. I am Jay Edgar, and this is Contemporary. Good morning, Ed Heads. Welcome to Contemporary. My name is Jay Edgar. We have got, well, actually it was a pretty slow news day today. The bulk of what we have up on top right now is actually leftover from the week, which means we might actually get through everything here. So we'll see. I was quite surprised when I started going through news stories yesterday, and it's just like, oh, there's more Mar-a-Lago stuff, and CNN has admitted that the Inflation Reduction Act doesn't reduce inflation, which we all knew already. Everybody knew that already, but we got to go over it because they're being blatantly honest about it. They're laughing in your face. It's, hey, we got this through. You've tried everywhere you can to resist this, but we still got it through. So, ha ha, ha ha, ha ha. And, well, that's what your government thinks about you. So, we're going to talk about that. We'll talk about the Mar-a-Lago stuff. There's a little bit of Liz Cheney stuff up off the top. Just a little bit of sour grapes that are going through here. So, we'll talk about that. But I really do want to talk about these few stories that have just fallen by the wayside through here. The mother and daughter charged in a horrific illegal abortion case that actually, the criminal elements of it happened before Roe versus Wade, oddly enough, but we'll talk about that. The CPS employee that's caught telling the 14-year-old girl to go and hook because it's the only way she can feed herself, and another public school teacher arrested after repeated reports of sexual abuse. So we'll be talking about that as well. Plus, I've got thing I like and thing that I hate today as well. And I think they're pretty good ones. I'm kind of glad that these ones got shuffled off the Monday show because I really kind of wanted to put those into this segment. I really did. In fact, I'm almost surprised I didn't put thing I like in last week's thing I like segment because it's been floating around the stack since then. But we've got to get into it. We got to get started because even with a reduced news load for the day, we still got a lot to go over, and 9:30 is going to sneak up on us pretty quick, so let's get started. By the way, new meme format came out, so I'm actually going to put that up on the stack here. Let's grab this tweet here. Let's put that up here, and we'll put this right after the Cheney stuff. I think that'll fit nicely there. Alright, let's get started. Before we do, make sure you guys go check out the Daily Ignoramus, the Breakdown with Birkenhoff, the R-Rated Conservative, the Porch Boys. Go check out Mr. Behavior, Tweets by a Brit. KTZed is not here. I have to go back and listen to the Chicken Massacre episode because I didn't realize that was coming up this past weekend until in a group chat, KTZed was talking about it. And I'm like, oh, I thought that was next weekend. I didn't say that out loud, but I actually thought that was next weekend. So we'll talk about that. Go check out PJ the Patriot. I'm going to see if we can't pull him in for the new website. I'm going to talk to him about that over the weekend here, actually, because he wants to help make sure I get on Odyssey and Rumble, too. But yeah, we'll have new places where you guys can go and live chat, too, and places that don't necessarily hate you. 2 more broadcasts, including this one, until we can go back onto the main channel as well. So, a lot of stuff moving, a lot of stuff going here. But thank you, by the way, to the 4 people who subscribed to the backup channel, because those were the first subscribers on there. On the backup channel, that was just me putting clips on for the Red Net show back when I still was running the laptop. So, it wouldn't take up all the tab bandwidth over on my computer. So, Yeah, thank you guys for that. It's been interesting using this channel, which actually this Google account has been my primary Google account since I got Gmail for the first time way back when I lived in Kenosha, which is why the picture looks so damn old. But that's enough about us. Make sure you go check out all those great channels over there and all the great Twitter accounts and what everybody's putting out for production. Let's get into it. Let's get started. Let's talk about finance. This goes here, this goes here, this goes here. The Dow was down yesterday about 0.5%. It sank down even lower. It tried to rally itself back, but it just fell and sputtered throughout the rest of the day yesterday. Now, it does look like the futures are back up, but one of the big weights on this is Target. And as I mentioned yesterday, people are giving up on the more expensive options unless they have a real major ideological difference with going to Walmart. They're going to Walmart for everything right now, and Walmart is booming because nobody's got any money. And really, honestly, I mean, when you talk about Walmart over on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram or wherever you want to go talk to people about things, you start to, like, nobody likes Walmart for a good reason. I know people who've worked there. I've been there before. You can tell that, you know, the lines are always long. They have 1,000 cash registers open. Even at the little one in Janesville, they have 1,000 cash registers open, and they only are existing, but they only have 4 of them open at a time. They get on their soapbox. They tell you that, you know, we can't sell the evil 5.56 because that's assault weapon ammo, and that might get used for a school shooting. They treat their workers like crap. They don't allow them to unionize, which I'm against the union anyway, but I mean, if the workers want to do that, that's between them and Walmart. It's not my place to come out and say, union bad, you should never be able to do this. It should still be their choice, even if I think it's ill-advised. And there are a lot of things out there that make Walmart a bad company, but they are thriving right now in the fact that nobody has any money, while Target and Lowe's and Home Depot is mysteriously thriving too, but you know, there's a lot of stuff moving there, so we'll talk a bit about that with IBD. Let's grab one from Bitcoin. On the Bitcoin, that is across the day at 23.5, 22.70, and that is up on the day. It looks like actually up a mildly significant amount, 187 US dollars and 60 US cents up. But it's been kind of a roller coaster ride through the day, pulling out to the 5-day to see what it did through yesterday. And it looks like it did drop off twice throughout the day yesterday and just kind of held steady up until the point that we're seeing here. Looking in at fuel, well, the good news is, and I don't know if this is because of the stretch and the range and the gas stations that they used, I see some names out there that we haven't seen before, or because there is actually a level off coming here, but it looks like all the 350s in the Madison area are gone. And our range in the Madison area now is between 342 and 349, depending on where in the Madison area that you are. So that's a pretty broad range as far as gas prices go. They are somewhere within a couple pennies of each other when you're across the major metro area, because you know, people will go across town to get cheaper gas if they want to, if they need it really that badly. But we're holding somewhere steady into the 340 range, and we'll continue to watch this and see what happens with this. I do see at least one situation out there where we could see a backfire on Democrats and their gas tax holiday and their Saudi begging and everything else that puts gas back up to 5 to 6, especially once heating season starts again before November's midterm. I don't think it's a very likely chance, but it does exist. It's less than zero. Or, I'm sorry, it's more than zero. Less than zero. There's a negative chance that it'll happen. No, it's more than zero. But we'll continue to watch the gas price and see where that goes. Let's see what IBD has to say for the morning. Dow futures rise, Costco rival breaking out. Time to bite into Apple stock. From Ed Carson. I don't have the live chat up. I should. Dow futures rose slightly Thursday morning along with the S&P and the NASDAQ futures. Hold on. Looks like we had a question in the chat that we can probably get answered here. That's the link to the live stream on the backup channel. Ron Hilton. Let's see. Dow futures rose slightly Thursday morning, along with the S&P and the Nasdaq. The market rally pulled back Wednesday amid key resistance. The major indices initially paired losses following the release of Fed minutes from the July 27-28 meeting, but faded again by the close. Apple cleared a trend line entry with mega cap stock technically actionable ahead of an official breakout. Chip design firms Synopsys and lagging Dow Jones tech giant Cisco Systems reported late Wednesday. Synopsys rose slightly, and Cisco popped in the extended action on strong earnings and guidance. Lithium giant Sociedad Química y Minera de Chile. Usually I try to read the full name of the stock when I address the symbol, but for this particular one, which seems to be a little bit long, we will abbreviate that to the stock symbol of SQM. They released mixed results very early Thursday. SQM stock fell in pre-market trade. BJ's Wholesale, rival to Costco, beat views before the open. BJ's rose solidly, signaling a move above a buy point. Costco is just in a buy zone. Are they going to go nationwide? I'm familiar with BJ's. That's a New England thing. I don't know if I've actually been to one or not. I know a lot of people talked about it, but I know what it is. They never said it was a Costco rival. When I was living out there, they were saying it was like a Sam's Club rival. Which I guess you're kind of in the same boat there. I guess now that I say it out loud, I think about it and I understand. But are they going nationwide? I've never seen a BJ's wholesale anywhere other than New England. It'd be kind of cool to get some competition out there, I'm not going to lie. And the ability to go bulk shopping for a place that isn't Sam's Club. I mean, again, around here, if you want to go to Costco, you got to go all the way to Madison. And after they put their BS mask mandate in, I decided to stop spending money in Dane County. But we'll continue to watch that and see where that goes. Bed Bath & Beyond stock tumbles. Meanwhile, newly revived meme stock Bed Bath & Beyond fell nearly 10% on Thursday, as well as, but well off overnight lows. Bed Bath & Beyond rose 12% to 23.08 in Wednesday's session, but closed near session lows after hitting a 5-month high of 30 intraday. Shares jumped 29% in massive volume on Tuesday as GameStop chairman Ryan Cohen disclosed that he still owns Bed Bath & Beyond stock, along with significant out-of-the-money options. But late on Wednesday, Cohen disclosed his intention to completely exit Bed Bath & Beyond stock. I'm going to hold mine, I think. I think that's something I'm going to do. GameStop, the original meme stock, retreated overnight after falling 4%. AMC Entertainment, another meme stock, fell 14% in the regular session. Are people going back to the theaters? I see AMC is falling, and, I don't know any movie that's out right now. Is there a new Marvel thing that's out in theaters? I have no idea. I've never even thought about going to the movie house in any recent time. Well, I don't really watch movies either, so there's that. I'm getting better at watching movies. I grabbed a cult classic the other day on my Fire Stick, and I started it, so it's there. And at one point, if I have 2 hours, I'll sit down and watch the 80s classic with Christian Slater, Heathers. Because people tell me it's a cult classic. I hadn't heard of it until Mr. Robot, but I think I'm going to watch that over the weekend. All right, on the Fed minutes, Federal Reserve policymakers at the late July meeting agreed that further rate hikes are necessary, according to newly released Fed minutes. Declining commodity prices, including energy, aren't enough, according to the Fed minutes, with policymakers stressing that inflation pressures are broad-based, but they also worried about slowing the economy too much. They didn't seem concerned that financial conditions eased since the June meeting, including the Treasury yields and stock market rally. All in all, the Fed minutes held no hawkish surprises, slightly easing the rate hike expectations. Still, markets now see a 61.5% chance of a 50 basis point Fed rate hike in September 21st. Earlier Wednesday, before the Fed minutes released, odds were about evenly divided between half-point move or a third straight 75 basis point move. Costco is on the IBD leaderboard in swing trader. Synopsys is on the IBD long-term leaders. Synopsys and SQM are on the IBD 50 on the futures. Dow futures rose 0.2% versus fair value. The S&P climbed 0.3%, and the Nasdaq climbed 0.4%. Costco is a member of the Dow, the S&P, and the Nasdaq. Crude oil futures rose 1%. Natural gas futures added 1%. The 10-year yield fell 2 points to 2.87. Remember, overnight action in the Dow futures and elsewhere doesn't necessarily translate into actual trading in the next regular stock market session. That's what's driving everything up right now. Let's see what drove everything a little bit low yesterday. We will touch briefly on CNBC's analysis of this. Dow closes lower Wednesday to end in 5-day win streak. Wall Street mulls new retail data from Samantha Subin and Tanaya Makil. Stocks fell Wednesday as the rally that has pushed prices higher since mid-June appeared to lose steam, and traders also assessed the latest retail data and minutes from the Federal Reserve. The Dow shed 171.69 points, or 0.5%, to close at 33,980.32. The S&P slid 0.72 to close at 42,74.04, while the Nasdaq dropped 1.25 points to 12,938.12. The 30-stock index snapped its 5-day win streak, but finished the session slightly positive week to date. The S&P and the Nasdaq have slipped 0.14 and 0.84 respectively since the start of the week. Stocks were volatile as traders assessed the latest Fed meeting minutes, which showed that the central bank would continue aggressive hiking campaign until it can tame inflation. At the same time, the Fed also indicated it could soon slow the speed of its tightening, while also acknowledging the state of the economy and risk to the downside for gross domestic product growth. What gross domestic product growth? Again, I have to ask. We have yet to have growth of the GDP this year. So can somebody please explain to me what GDP growth we're talking about? And quite honestly, it's not looking good for quarter 3. I realize we're only 2 months into it at this point, a month and a half into it, but it is not looking good. Participants judged that as the stance of monetary policy tightened further, it likely would become appropriate at some point to slow the pace of policy rate increases while assessing the effects of cumulative policy adjustments on economic activity and inflation. Meanwhile, traders continue to comb through corporate earnings from the retail sector. Target shares slipped 2.6% after posting earnings that widely missed expectations as it grapples with excess inventory. Lowe's ended the session marginally higher despite a mixed quarter. Retail sales data released Wednesday were flat in July, although consumers did increase spending online. No surprise to see the markets take a breather from the summer rally it's been riding, said Chris Larkin, managing director of trading at E-Trade Financial. The market is looking for any signs that a slowdown in rate hikes, which has seemingly fueled the recent rise, is coming. Investors should remain nimble and continue to expect volatility, as we may not be out of the woods just yet, which we are not. But as we continue to go, and as they continue to try to keep you out of the market, and only letting their rich investors and the government spend all the money, it is time, as I've continued to tell you. And you should always be doing this, and I should have been doing more of this under good times as well. That's one thing that I'm kicking myself for, because when times were good, I wasn't doing preparation like this. I was starting to, but I wasn't doing it to the level that I should have been, and that is, grab that can of Spam, that extra can of Spam, every week when you go to the grocery store, and don't eat it. Put it in the shelf. Put it in the cabinet and forget about it. Grab a bag of rice, even a little 1-pounder, and put it in there. Grab a bag of beans, even if it's a little 1-pounder. Throw it in the shelf. They're non-perishable, they're shelf-stable, and they stick around for a long, long, long time. It's something you should have been doing for a while, and I should have been doing so as well. But, now that we're here, now that we think about it, now we sit back and wonder, is this the right time? And yes, it is the right time. Because it is going to be choppy again for a little while. Alright. One more on finance here, just a little bit of something to watch as we go forward. Nothing major panic inducing, but this one comes from the Daily Mail. Top economist nicknamed Dr. Doom warns U.S. faces persistently high inflation unless Fed doubles interest rates. He admits it will cause hard landing recession as big short investor dumps entire stock portfolio over fears of market crash. From Harriet Alexander for DailyMail.com. A famed economist known as Dr. Doom has warned the U.S. will see either rampant inflation or a significant market slowdown unless the Federal Reserve doubles its current funding rate. Nouriel Roubini, a 64-year-old professor of economics and founder of an influential consulting firm, was a senior economist for the Council of Economic Advisors under Clinton and worked for the Treasury under Barack Obama. His nickname came from pessimistic views on the economy, including an accurate prediction about the looming housing market crash ahead of the Great Recession. On Monday, Roubini told Bloomberg that the Federal Reserve needed to make significant financial adjustments to stave off serious consequences. He suggested that to stave off inflation, a doubling of the Fed's current interest rate was needed, but admitted that taking this step would cause a hard landing recession as the U.S. economy contracts. Yeah, you'll probably be looking at, maybe 6 to 10% unemployment. If you do that. He said the Fed funds rate, their guidelines for lending for banks, needed to double from its current range of 2.25% to 2.5% in order to address a severely inflationary environment. He warned, however, that sharply increasing the Fed's fund rate would also create a hard landing on the economy, a dramatic downturn. And also the rich would get richer, because the only people that would be able to afford to take out a loan at that point would be your billionaire friends and your billionaire corporate leaders. All those small businesses that are struggling and trying to hold on, that hire a lot more of the population than the billionaire companies, a lot of them are going bye-bye if you do that. The Fed funds rate should be going well above 4%, 4.5% to 5% in my view, to really push inflation towards 2%, he said. If that doesn't happen, inflation expectations are going to get unhinged. Or if that happens, we're going to have a hard landing. He said that neither maintaining the status quo or increasing the Fed's fund rate was panacea. Either way, you get a hard landing, and you get inflation getting out of control, not and, he said. His remarks came as Michael Burry, the 51-year-old hedge fund manager, disclosed that he had sold almost all of the stock he owned. Burry's antics were portrayed by the 2015 film starring Christian Bale as the financier who profited from the housing market collapse. I am planning on profiting from the housing market collapse, not just in me trying to go out and buy in the midst of the collapse, but I have found another opportunity that doesn't involve the stock market that I'd like to look into, and from the most part, from looking at reviews, it does seem to be pretty stable. So, something else to look forward to and think about. I may not disclose it because it may be taken as investment advice, but I might talk to some of you guys in voice or something privately about it. But that's what they're saying. I hope you've prepared. I hope you have some shelf-stable stuff, just in case you have to go a week or two without going to the grocery store. And as I said, with the Inflation Reduction Act coming, getting ready to produce more inflation, I do hope that most of you have at least a solid plan to take your expenditures from current level to zero at a week's notice, just in case the worst happens, you lose your job. You suddenly realize that you can't afford the house payment anymore, or something to that effect. I'm not saying to take your expenditures to zero. I'm just saying start going down through the household agenda and make a plan in case you have to. Write it down on a piece of paper, stuff it in a drawer, and forget about it. And then if worse does come to worse, open up the drawer, look at this and say, honey, yeah, we're going to have to go down through the plan. And again, I hope that none of you ever has to take the plan, but it's a really good idea to at least have it. And that is official financial advice, by the way. Have a plan to bring your expenditures to zero for 30 to 60 days, if necessary. Within a week's notice. That is good, solid financial advice. All right, let's get into the main news of the day. We're going to start today talking about Liz Cheney. Again. Because it's really, really funny. Now, this is an older article. Well, not that old. Today, this article came on the 13th. Today's the 18th. So 5 days. It was before the primary, but I thought it was interesting enough to include on the top of the show. From the New York Post, Liz Cheney's husband is a partner at the law firm defending Hunter Biden. From John Levine. Wyoming Rep. GOP, Liz Cheney's husband is a partner at the law firm now representing Hunter Biden. Philip Perry has worked at Latham & Watkins since 2007 and focuses on white-collar cases, commercial and Supreme Court litigation, according to his company bio. Another Latham partner, Chris Clark, has been representing Hunter Biden since December of 2020, but Cheney's husband's involvement at the firm has not been previously known. Latham is a Democratic powerhouse, the company attorneys and other employees donating more than $500,000 to President Biden's 2020 campaign. Federal Election Commission records show Clark himself ponied up $3,800. Clark's work for the first son is prominently displayed on his company profile, which notes his representation of Hunter in a grand jury investigation regarding tax issues. The firm's close ties to the Democratic Party have come under scrutiny in the past. On his first day in office, with the Justice Department probe of Hunter in full swing, President Biden appointed Nicholas McQuaid, another Latham partner, to lead the Justice Department's criminal division, earning a written rebuke from Chuck Grassley and Ron Johnson. Cheney was first elected to the state's only House seat in 2016, saw her political popularity at home tank after she became a ferocious Trump critic, and voted to impeach the former president. The daughter of former Vice President Dick Cheney is widely expected to lose a primary next week, and she did, to challenger Harriet Hageman, who's been endorsed by both Trump and House Minority Leader Rep. Kevin McCarthy. So, it is not clear if Perry himself is doing any work on the Hunter Biden case, but it's interesting that he's chosen to work, while married, to one of the most prominent Republicans in the news cycle, the daughter of the demonized former vice president, and to still go at this powerhouse Democratic law firm and defend Hunter Biden. That's an interesting twist of events, and it kind of steers us into the direction of, oh, this is probably why the news media was so eager to get us to try to support Liz Cheney, because of Evil Orange Man. It has nothing to do with Evil Orange Man. It's the fact that, Hubby Dearest works in this law firm. What's also interesting to note, and I actually found out about this because I was going back to look through Liz Cheney's bio to find out if she was, because I knew that, single mom, soccer mom, or not single mom, but soccer mom, baseball mom, etc., that she has on her bio. The interesting question that I had about this was why she was still using her dad's name. And honestly, I think that was for political points, and really honestly to come out and say, oh yeah, no, well, I endorse the war machine. I think we should be out there. It would be really easy to distance yourself and work on your own merits. Especially as a woman who's the daughter of a former vice president like that, because you get married and you can change your last name, but we don't call her Liz Perry. We call her Liz Cheney. But notable also the fact that Mr. Perry himself is working for a Democratic powerhouse like this. It brings us back, it shows us the monoparty narrative. May or may not be true, and we're leaning a little bit more towards may. And yes, Liz Cheney does endorse the Middle East policies of her father. She kept his name. But interesting enough to see. Grab one here from our friends over at NPR. Liz Cheney is considering a presidential run to stop Trump after losing her House seat. This was her Not Morning edition, and remember, hit that donate button to help reporters like Deirdre Walsh remind you that anything who is to the right of Mao Zedong is evil, and communism is the only way to go through. So hit that donate button, because they are never printing reality. NPR, National Progressive Radio, let's see what they have to say. Wyoming Republican Liz Cheney is laying out their future political plans, including a possible run against Trump in 2024 after conceding defeat in primary election for her House seat. Her loss on Tuesday followed unyielding criticism since the January 6th Selfie Fest and his efforts to subvert the 2020 election. That totally wasn't subverted. Most popular president in history, 81 million votes, 10 scoops of ice cream. The primary is over, but now the real work begins, Cheney said in her concession speech Tuesday night, noting she had called opponent Harriet Hageman to congratulate her. Cheney acknowledged in a Wednesday interview on NBC's Today she was thinking about running for president in 2024. Please do. I want to see the country roundly reject the Bushite, Cheneyite policies that have plagued our nation for my entire life. I want to see a round rejection of that. Pretty please. My God. For her 2022 House race, Cheney raised $14 million, a record for any primary in Wyoming's history. She spent about half of it. The vast majority of donations came from out of state. Surprise, surprise. And she's built up a network she could tap into in the future. Cheney plans to transform her campaign operation into a political action committee called The Great Task, according to a filing with the Federal Election Commission. In the coming weeks, Liz will be launching an organization to educate the American people about the ongoing threat to our republic and to mobilize a unified effort to oppose any Donald Trump campaign for president, said Cheney, spokesman Jeremy Adler, as first reported by Politico. In the interview on Wednesday, she called Trump a grave threat and said, "I think that defeating him is going to require a broad and united front of Democrats, Republicans, and Independents, and that's what I intend to be a part of." Yeah. All of the major powers of government who have been trampling and trotting on you for 70 years are coming together against one person. It's fair to say they don't hate that one person, they hate you. But that's what we see for that. Got a little SNL sketch for you. We'll see if this actually goes through or if we get blocked on the backup channel. But let's see. Mr. Zed tweets this out, LMAO. Quote tweeting, "Pammy is back. SNL nailed it. No one knew she was a Republican. Funny. Have not pre-watched this clip, so I'll be watching it for the first time with you guys. Let's watch." Okay, that was funny. The Rachel Dolezal of the Republican Party. I like that. I'm glad I included that. All right, what else do we have? Oh. As I said, the new meme template is dropped. And you can see, somewhat attractive looking from here down girl. You can't really tell because of the shape her face is in while she's yelling in this clearly uncomfortable dude's ear. This came from a picture here. Taylor the Dark Scribe says, "I've been trying to come up with something for this image, but I'm realizing literally girls don't have micro-interests that aren't astrology," which actually I don't believe that's true. It's funny to think about, but I've known enough girls that have micro-interests like that to know that's not true. But Arvolt hits it up on the head and says, "Oh look, a new meme template has just dropped." And his caption to this is, "You have to advertise your Etsy account on all the social media, including Insta, Pinterest, Facebook, even Twitter. That's why I started an OnlyFans. Thank you, Arvolt, for that. I did put that in the Discord too, by the way. I don't have the immediate meme template, which I might put that in there as well. But yeah, I will put that in there. If you guys want to make a meme off of this, I will get the blank template in there for you guys. Alright, from the Daily Wire. Ben Shapiro himself weighing in on this. Gang, Garland never thought national security was at stake. Do I do this in Ben voice the whole time? No, that's a lot of work. It's like me trying to do the entire episode of Contemporary in Razorfist character on Halloween. I thought about it for a while and like, man, that is a lot of energy for 7:30 in the morning. A.G. Garland's claim that the search of former President Trump's Mar-a-Lago home was a matter of vital national importance doesn't add up, according to editor emeritus Ben Shapiro. Garland's assertion doesn't jive with the report that he wrestled with the decision for 2 weeks, according to Shapiro. A true national security issue would seemingly require immediate action, not 2 weeks of dithering, Shapiro said on his Wednesday podcast, which I have not listened to. I might. God help me, in the wake of this, I've actually been listening to Shapiro again. Because he has, as much as I dislike him, he has the legal knowledge as a practicing lawyer to shed light onto this that I can't see in other ways. And I can't stand Shapiro, but I can't deny his invaluability in a situation like this. It turns out that Merrick Garland actually weighed searching Trump's Mar-a-Lago for weeks, according to the Wall Street Journal, which undermines the idea that this was a vital national security importance, gang. Remember, we're originally told that here the search warrant had to be served because Donald Trump had nuclear secrets in his closet in a box, okay, gang? In a box. Where else would you put nuclear secrets? Not in a box, but in a box. You know what I put in a box? I put my Birch Gold in a box, okay, gang? Make sure you go in, buy Birch Gold, and only Birch Gold, and use code Shapiro for Birch Gold because they've been sponsoring me since the beginning. Get your money out of stocks and IRAs, put them into gold, always gold, and make sure you put some shekels into my box as well, okay, gang? The Wall Street Journal article Shapiro referenced said Garland was initially asked about authorizing a search of Trump's Florida home weeks before approving it. The DOJ has released a search warrant and inventory of seized items, but has so far balked at releasing the affidavit that would state the probable cause for the search. As a result, speculation has swirled about what the feds were looking for in the August 8th search and what potential criminal charges the former president could face. There are some people yesterday in the media who are comparing this to Al Capone, that we know Trump is guilty of something, Shapiro said. We know that he's a bootlegger. We know that he's responsible for the St. Valentine's Day massacre. We all know these things, but we can't get them on that. So let's get him on tax evasion, okay, gang? Tax evasion. We're going to take the tax documents. They've wanted the tax documents forever, and we're going to find out that he's a tax evader, that he paid 0 to 10 taxes and everything else. And that's what the MSNBC crowd wants you to believe, okay, gang? Without knowing specifically what the FBI agents were searching for and why, I know what they were searching for. Information that might be revealed by the affidavit. The public can either assume the worst about Trump or dismiss it as a fishing expedition by Garland's DOJ. Trump is pushing for the affidavit to be released, but the DOJ argued unsealing it could cause significant and irreparable damage to an ongoing investigation that implicates national security. Now, I'm pretty sure it's going to cause significant and irreparable damage to the fabric of this country if you unseal it, because you are going to find out that you didn't have crap. And a lot of people are going to turn on you. Shapiro, a Harvard-trained lawyer, said the breadth of the search warrant, which included seizure of any government and or presidential records created between January 20th in 2017 and January 20th, 2021, is a big hint about the Fed's motives. That's why the warrant was so broad, gang. Originally, the idea was, the idea was done in order to shore up the holdings of the National Archives. That's a joke, okay, gang.
That's obviously not what this is about, and I said yesterday, it's a deep-sea fishing expedition, and maybe they come up with something. I have a feeling that probably they will not.
If the DOJ doesn't reveal the real evidence the search was necessary as a matter of national security, the entire effort could look like yet another effort by anti-Trump forces in the government to stop him from running for president ever again, and also to stop his candidate endorsements. So, and I don't believe it either, really honestly. I think they started formulating this after Carrie Lake, after she won her primary in a blowout. They looked at this and said, okay, now we've got to come back and find a time when he's not going to be there, and go in and start rooting around, because there's something in those boxes. Merrick Garland is the epitome of, you bring me the man and I will find you the crime. He will find a crime somewhere. And he's going to keep searching and searching and searching until he does. From NBC. 9 days after Mar-a-Lago, the FBI agents are still sifting through Trump documents. Because of course they are. From Ken Dillananian, Michael Cosner, and Zoe Richards. More than a week after they searched the former president's Florida residence, FBI agents are still sifting through the seized documents. Two law enforcement officials briefed on the matter told NBC News. The FBI's filter team, a group of agents independent of the overall investigation, is tasked with separating out documents that are covered by attorney-client privilege and material deemed not relevant to the probe. That's funny. I'm pretty sure that the attorney-client privilege stuff is probably going to get leaked. Records deemed irrelevant are turned over to investigating agents, while those that are not relevant are returned to Trump. The officials who spoke to NBC said it was the filter team that determined that Trump passports, which he claimed the agent stole during the search, were considered not relevant and returned to him, as previously reported by NBC News. The officials also said the filter team is checking to see whether any of the documents or other materials not marked classified include classified information. No, that's not what they're looking for. They're looking for anything that they can pin on him before November. They have got everything under a microscope because they've got to find something. So we'll continue to watch this. Another one from the Daily Wire. Is this going to be an unnamed source? Does not look like we have a name on the source for this, but I'm going to read into this and remind you that this is a sources say. So take this with the appropriate grain of salt. From Tim Pierce. FBI official search warrant stunningly broad scope gives Trump room for legal challenge. The release of the FBI warrant to search President Donald Trump's Florida residence raises questions about what precisely the Bureau hoped to find and gives Trump an avenue for legal recourse, according to a former FBI official. The FBI raided Trump's residence at Mar-a-Lago on August 8th, taking away roughly a dozen boxes worth of evidence, according to reports. The warrant and accompanying receipts giving vague descriptions of what was removed from the property showed that the Bureau took seemingly mundane objects, such as Roger Stone's grant of clemency, as well as several boxes purportedly containing top-secret material. The agents also took items they had no right to remove and that the DOJ said were removed by mistake, such as Trump's passports. The DOJ informed Trump's legal team on Monday the FBI would be returning these documents. While criminal search warrants typically show specificity, that's a hard word to say, in what items law enforcement believe will turn up, the warrant signed by Magistrate Judge Bruce Reinhardt gives a broad directive. Mar-a-Lago is described as a mansion with approximately 58 bedrooms, 33 bathrooms, on a 17-acre estate. Locations to be searched include the 45 office, all storage rooms, and all other rooms or areas within the premises used or available to be used by the former president and his staff, in which boxes or documents could be stored, the warrant says. The court order further gave the FBI license to remove any documents found on the premises from essentially Trump's entire presidency,
Any government and or presidential records created between January 20th, 2017 and January 20th, 2021 is property to be seized, the warrant says. Trump's attorneys could have a runaway to argue the scope of the search is overly broad. Kevin Brock, a former FBI Assistant Director for Intelligence, told Just the News, search warrants normally require a level of specificity that seems to be missing in this warrant. Specificity is important to protect the Fourth Amendment rights from exuberant government overreach designed to find whatever they can. And that's exactly right. There is no specificity to this because they don't know what they're looking for. They just know that they're out to go and find a crime. Brock said the confiscation of Stone's bread. Oh, this is Kevin Brock. So this is a named source, by the way. Brock said the confiscation of Stone's clemency grant suggests to him that the raid had more to do with Democrat probes into the circumstances of the January 6th selfie fest than the DOJ officials are claiming. The president's authority to grant pardon and clemency is clear, but what isn't clear is why the retention of clemency order would be considered illegal, Brock said. The fact that it's highlighted on the receipt list and that it has to do with Stone would likely provide ammunition to Republicans who are asserting the search was less about document dispute and more about the hunt for derogatory January 6th information. It's not just January 6th. They're looking for anything that they can go and pin on him to make sure that he can't run in 24 and that all of his candidates lose. So, that is what we see for that. From Insider, Trump used the Mar-a-Lago raid to fire up supporters, raising up to $1 million a day in donations, from a report. From Lloyd Lee. Now, Trump's a billionaire. I don't know why he needs to go back out and raise $1 million from supporters, but there are enough people out there that think strongly enough against the FBI to go and open up their pocketbooks about this. I actually considered it. And you guys know my feeling about the orange spending spree. But the Fourth and the Fifth Amendments are very sacrosanct to me. And I can't stand by and still watch and say, man, they can do this to him, but they're definitely never going to do it to us, am I right? Donald Trump raised up to $1 million a day in donations after the FBI executed a search warrant on August 8th at the former president's home in Palm Beach. Over the past week, Trump's fundraising team solicited donations through a flurry of emails that denounced the FBI search as a threat to democracy and an unprecedented infringement on the right of every American citizen by Democrats. We need every single American patriot to take action and bolster our official Trump Defense Fund, one email said. This is the only way to defend President Trump and help him save America. Supporters quickly took the call to action. For at least 2 days, figures reached up to $1 million, according to a report from the Washington Post. It's not clear how much was raised in total since the day of the search, but 2 people anonymously spoke to the newspaper and said the daily numbers in recent months ranged from $200,000 to $300,000. Trump's fundraising team overall saw higher than average number of contributions and size of donations. The sources say donations have since leveled off. The people who are supporting the former president don't want to be trod on. And that's pretty obvious at this point. And they do look at this and they see a case and a situation where people sit down, they look at this, and they say, it could happen to me. I keep the blind open here, even if it gets hot out, to try to block out the sun. I keep the blind open, because if they do try to swap me while I'm on air, I want to see it happen. I want to see it coming. But that's what we get for that. Pence condemns attacks on the FBI after Mar-a-Lago search. From Brett Samuels. Well, I condemn violence as well. If you're going to go and be violent, don't. And if somebody in the Discord server tells you that, Patriots, we need to go. We need to fire up and make everybody. We need to let everybody know how we feel about this. That person probably glows in the dark. Do not take the fight to the government. If anything, if you have to fight with the government, let them take the fight to you. Let them do it on your turf and your terms. Because if you do it on their turf and their terms, next to their armories, it's not going to go well for you. Former Vice President Pence on Wednesday criticized the members of his own party who have attacked the FBI in recent days over the search of former president's estate in Florida. I want to remind my fellow Republicans that we can hold the AG accountable for the decision that he made without attacking the rank-and-file law enforcement personnel at the FBI, Pence said to applause at an event at St. Anselm College in New Hampshire. The Republican Party is the party of law and order. Our party stands with the men and women who serve the thin blue line at the federal, state, and local level. And these attacks on the FBI must stop, Pence continued. Calls to defund the FBI are just as wrong as calls to defund the police. So they're right. Is that what you're saying? And the truth of the matter is we need to get to the bottom of what happened. We need to let the facts play out, Pence added. But more than anything else, the American people need to be reassured that the integrity of the justice system, which it has none, and the very appearance of a recurrence of politics playing a role in the decisions of the Justice Department demand transparency as never before. There is no integrity in the DOJ right now. It is all a matter of going after your political enemies. It's all that it is. But hey, that's nothing new for the FBI. More from Pence. Pence says he'd consider testifying before the January 6th Unselect Committee if asked. Because of course he would. Because why wouldn't he? He'll probably go under oath. From Melissa Quinn. Former VP Mike Pence said Wednesday he would consider appearing before the House Unselect Committee investigating the Selfie Fest if the panel summoned him to answer questions. If there was an invitation to participate, I would consider it, Ray Spannon said during a Politics and Eggs event held at St. Anselm College in Manchester, New Hampshire. I have been in Manchester. I've never been to St. Anselm College, but I've been to Manchester. But the former vice president noted that if he were invited to testify before the House investigators, he would have to reflect on the unique role that I was serving in as vice president. Well, you could do that, but they would pre-record you and cut it up and take whatever you needed to say out of context, and leave everything else out. It'd be unprecedented in history for a vice president to be summoned to testify on Capitol Hill, but if, as I said, I don't want to prejudge, he continued, if there were ever any formal invitation rendered to us, we'd give it due consideration. But my first obligation is to continue to uphold my oath, to continue to uphold the framework of government enshrined in the Constitution. There have, however, been both sitting presidents and vice presidents to testify before Congress, including Abe Lincoln, Woodrow Wilson, Gerald Ford. Schuyler Colfax also appeared voluntarily before the House Select Committee in 1873. About his stock ownership in the company involved in building federally subsidized Union Pacific Railroad. Wow. A government official owning stock in the company that got the no-bid contract? I'm shocked. A Select Committee spokesman declined to comment on Pence's remarks. I got this feeling there's not going to be a Select Committee for very much longer. So they better get Season 2 fired up right now because it's probably going away pretty quick. And that's what we see coming from the Mar-a-Lago raids. Let's go talk about the Inflation Reduction Act, or Inflation Production Act, so-called. From Fox Business, Manchin admits Inflation Reduction Act won't tame inflation for Americans anytime soon. From Bradford Betts and Hillary Vaughn. Joe? We know. We knew that as soon as you announced it. That you wanted to go spend $740 billion more dollars. Right before a midterm election. We knew. You're not telling us news right now, Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin on Tuesday admitted the Inflation Reduction Act won't immediately temper inflation, telling reporters that the necessary investments needed to bring down prices would take some time. Manchin's comments came after President Biden signed the landmark climate change and health care bill into law on Tuesday, delivering what he has called the final piece of his pared-down domestic agenda. Though Democrats have labeled the measure the Inflation Reduction Act, a nonpartisan analysis says that it will have a barely perceptible impact on prices. In fact, it will probably push them up. Asked by Fox reporter Hillary Vaughn whether it was misleading to call the bill the Inflation Reduction Act because it won't make everyday goods less expensive, Manchin said, "Why would it?" I don't know, Joe Manchin, because you put it right in the damned title. And again, this is Democrat Playbook 101. Would you vote against the I love puppies bill? Puppies are wonderful bill. You would vote against this? You must want to kill puppies. Disclaimer, inside of the Puppies Are Wonderful bill are provisions that take legislative powers away from the legislature, give it out to the executive, and give him the power to make laws over you directly at the stroke of a pen. But why would you vote against that? Do you hate puppies? My political opponent hates puppies. Well, immediately it's not, Manchin said. We never said anything would happen immediately. It's like turn the switch on and off. No, you kind of did, actually. Manchin said the market is anticipating the investments that will be made with the passing of the bill. Utility prices, for instance, will come down as the U.S. becomes more energy independent, which it will not. We're fighting like the dick... Oh, my God. You can't do something like this and go back and try to pretend to be a man of the people. And again, I had your number long ago. I said that it's cool that you're out here blocking this stuff and keeping the filibuster enshrined. But I said, and the people watching this program can attest to the fact that I said, watch this one. Yes, he's doing stuff that's cool, but he's going to turn around and stab you in the back. He is still a Democrat. And he won't switch parties no matter how much abuse they give him. What do you think that means? It's not that he's principled. He's in the government. Trust me. Fighting like the Dickens. Screw off. We're fighting like the Dickens. You've got to produce yourself out of this, Manchin said. If you think you're going to wait on the Federal Reserve to raise rates, discourage you from buying anything, and that's going to take care of our inflation, that's not how you take care of inflation. Well, no, you stop spending at the government level. But see how fast a Democrat rejects that. You, Pence-ite Republicans, Bush-ite Republicans, are no better. The populist side, I've yet to make a long-term judgment about off of that. Asked whether it made sense for people to pour large sums of money into putting solar panels on their roofs, buying an electric vehicle, then cashing on the credits, Manchin said it would be a 10-year process. So forget about the fact that you're starving to death right now. In 10 years, you might be rich. From The Blaze, CNN anchors laughs at Biden economic advisor who can't explain why the Inflation Reduction Act doesn't actually reduce inflation. CNN's Katie Boldwan pressed an economic advisor in the Biden admin to explain why the Inflation Reduction Act doesn't actually reduce inflation, and she laughed at the answer. Boldwan was interviewing Cecilia Rouse, the chair of the White House Council of Economic Advisors. They have economic advisors in this White House. Those people should all be fired. On the signing of the bill Tuesday and the official scoring, that said that it doesn't actually do what it says it will do. Democrats titled the bill the Inflation Reduction Act, which begs, of course, for voters to hold you accountable to that, said Boldwan. The CBO, you know this, but to remind viewers, the nonpartisan kind of scoring organization for legislation, says the bill would have negligible impact on the inflation this year and next. Boldwan continued, "Are you personally comfortable as an economist calling the Inflation Reduction Act?" Let's listen.
I mean, voters should.
That's only an 18-second clip. Let's bring that back out here. Mute this. Turn this one up. My producer was so unprepared. He needs to be fired.
You passed a bill called the Fill Every Pothole Act. I mean, voters should expect you to fill every pothole. I mean, so should voters measure the success of this bill on how much you reduce inflation in the next couple of years?
So this bill spins out over several years. And so the tax provisions, for example, some of the tax revenue will happen immediately.
Yeah, no. I like that example, though. You pass a bill called the Fill Every Pothole Act. Voters should expect you to fill every pothole. Well, not out of this current government. Apparently they're trying to shut down a women's march. Oh, we'll be talking about that tomorrow. On-air production for tomorrow's show. Which, by the way, if you do want to get your name mentioned here and you're lurking right now, remember, I do read live chat on Friday and the names of everybody who chatted for the rest of the week at the end of the show on Friday. So make sure you get at least one message in. From Fox, CNN's Harwood admits climate bill named Inflation Reduction Act as a marketing device to hook Manchin. I don't think that's quite the case. As much as they're going to try to tell us that's the case, I don't believe that's the case. I think it was more Manchin did this to try to give his Twitter followers a talking point. We have no video for this, so we'll probably just paraphrase what's coming off of this. This is from Gabriel Hayes. On the Tuesday episode of CNN's New Day, John Harwood told anchors John Bergman and Breonna Kyler that nearly $750 billion government spending bill signed by President Biden on Tuesday was dubbed the Inflation Reduction Act as a ploy to get moderate Democrats like Manchin to support it. Harwood also emphasized the Inflation Reduction Act will have negligible effect on lowering inflation. Yeah, we know. That was common knowledge. Prior to Harwood's point, CNN's Kyler claimed the passage of the bill was a significant victory for Biden's agenda and for his party, even if questions remain about whether it will live up to its name. New Day then provided a clip of several Democratic lawmakers and Biden admin officials having trouble explaining how the bill would combat inflation. During the clip, White House Press Secretary Token Diversity Hire struggled to answer how the act would cut inflation, and Jamie Raskin asked reporters to move on to a different question when asked about the topic. That's because we all know it wasn't there to reduce inflation. It was there to get a bunch of Democrat sycophants on board so they can go back to Republicans they find on Twitter and say, "See, they're trying to reduce inflation right now. Stop being a bigot." It was there to give talking points, but it had no intention on reducing inflation. Everybody knew this. And yet, here we are, still talking about this. Apologize for the rubbing in the nose. It is still allergy season. Well, not still. It's coming in full force. We were going good for a while. We had it a little bit in the spring and a little bit, just a couple days in the summer, but we were doing well for a while. And now it's like back in force. Let's talk about DeSantis. Blatant abuse of power. Ousted Florida prosecutor sues DeSantis over suspension. From Matt Dixon. Ousted Hillsborough County State Attorney Andrew Warren on Wednesday filed a federal lawsuit arguing DeSantis abused his power when suspending him from office among other things, a pledge not to prosecute women who violate Florida's new 15-week abortion ban. DeSantis detractors immediately condemned Warren's August 4th suspension as a political overreach and targeting a political foe. The governor framed the move as maintaining his law and order philosophy and characterized Warren's suspension as removing a progressive prosecutor who refused to enforce laws. Warren has twice been elected to serve as state attorney for the 13th Judicial Circuit. This morning, I filed a suit in federal court to challenge the blatant abuse of power by Governor DeSantis in suspending me as state attorney, Warren said during a Wednesday morning press conference in Tallahassee. There is so much more at stake here than my job. Warren's lawsuit, filed by the U.S. District Court in Northern District of Florida, alleges that DeSantis violated his First Amendment right by suspending him for signing a pledge not to prosecute women for seeking abortions and his public statements opposing the criminalization of transgender people. He's asking the court to throw out DeSantis' executive order used to suspend him and to rule the governors are not allowed to take similar actions moving forward. See, again, I like what happened here with DeSantis. As far as whether or not he could do that, that is a question for the Florida Constitution, which I know absolutely nothing about. So I can't come out and say, yes, this passed the smell test or not. I can't say any of that. What I can say when I look at this is this does make me concerned about some of these redder states out there, or county officials and sheriffs who decide to make their counties and states Second Amendment sanctuaries and not prosecute federal laws in their jurisdictions. To have a rogue Democrat manage to rise his way through the ranks and start firing them, doing the same thing to them over the same thing. This is something that I really think that we need to pay attention to and see where this goes and what happens with this. I think that DeSantis actually played a dangerous game on this. I really do. I like the idea of trying to save more of the babies. But as I've mentioned, when you start to try to do it at a government level, there are problems because the government sucks at everything. And there is a 50-50 shot that we might be starting to see that play out here in Florida. We got one here from our friends over at NPR. Suspended Florida prosecutor sues Governor Ron DeSantis to get his job back. From Greg Allen. And remember, hit that donate button because NPR still needs to never print reality and show you how to be a progressive. That is right, National Progressive Radio. Let's see what happens. A Florida prosecutor is suing Ron DeSantis for removing him from office. The state attorney from Tampa, Andrew Warren, was ousted earlier this month by DeSantis. The Republican governor said that he acted because statements Warren had signed pledging not to prosecute people for violating abortion restrictions or a law prohibiting gender-affirming care for minors. Warren filed the lawsuit in district court saying the governor violated his First Amendment rights to freedom of speech. Although he spoke in favor of abortion rights and gender-affirming medical care, Warren had not taken any action on those issues, and the office had no cases pending. Warren was twice elected to serve as state attorney, and Warren says DeSantis violated his right to freedom of speech and his actions overturned an election. There's so much more at stake here than my job, Warren said at a news conference in Tallahassee. Warren says DeSantis also violated Florida law by improperly removing him from office for political reasons. And that is going to be what we have to pay attention to, whether or not it was legal in Florida's constitution for DeSantis to do this, and whether or not other state constitutions have this in their charters. So I know that we glossed over the Andrew Warren stuff earlier and actually removed it from the stack, but this is actually something we should be watching and seeing as we go. From Politico, Florida court says teen isn't mature enough to get an abortion. Well, I have some thoughts on what a teen is or isn't mature enough to do. From Arik Sarkeesian. Oh, a Sarkeesian. Interesting. A Florida Court of Appeals this week upheld a decision stating a 16-year-old teen could not get an abortion because she lacked the maturity to make such a decision, even after the parentless teen said she was not ready to have a child and still in school. An opinion released Monday by the Florida 1st District Court of Appeal upheld an earlier decision by a state court judge. That judge was not convinced the teen had demonstrated the maturity to choose to get an abortion. The teen's identified only as Jane Doe 22B has no parents, but is in the care of Florida's Child Welfare Agency and has a guardian. She's about 10 weeks pregnant and currently resides with a relative. The minor states she's sufficiently mature to make the decision, saying she's not ready to have the baby. She doesn't have a job, she's still in school, the Monday order states, and the father is unable to assist her. Florida abortion law requires parents to consent before a minor can have an abortion, but underage teens can also circumvent the consent requirement by asking for a waiver from a state court judge. According to the appeal court's decision, the teen's guardian supports the teen's wish to get an abortion. DeSantis in 2020 signed into law a measure that made parental consent for an abortion a requirement for minors. The new law was a win for Republicans who long sought to topple precedent set by the state Supreme Court in 1989 when it rejected a similar parental notification law and was declared a violation of privacy. Voters approved a constitutional amendment in 2004 that led the legislature to create parental notification requirement, but it provides for exceptions and the ability for minors to ask the court for waivers. The court's decision to deny the teen an abortion was just one of the roughly 200 petitions filed by minors looking to bypass parental notification laws that Florida Circuit Court judge decide every year. A Politico analysis of Florida court reports show the majority of those petitions are approved. Judges deny an average of 18 of those petitions each year. Here's the reality. If you were not mature enough to make the decision to have the abortion, you probably weren't mature enough to make the decision to say, "Oh, blow it in me, daddy!" If you don't think that you have the ability to take care of kids, you shouldn't be putting yourself in a position to have kids. And I'm not saying to be chaste by any stretch of the imagination. That would be hypocritical of me to do so. But when you are not being chaste, you should be making decisions in your non-chastity. I'm trying to keep this clean for the AM radio, folks. I really am. The people that were recording away from that platform. If you are to go in a form of non-chastity, you should be making decisions in those procedures to make sure that you don't have kids if you're not ready for kids. There is a middle ground. Obviously, the first ground is, have you tried not screwing? But since I know that after the 90s advertising boom and the sex sells advertising of the 80s and 90s, that's almost a foregone conclusion in today's society. But trust me, there is a middle ground between a chastity belt and aborting for convenience. There is a middle ground somewhere in there. You morons. Alright. I said that I wanted to spend some time on this, and we actually have some time. So I've got 3 stories that I do want to talk a little bit about in more detail that we really couldn't keep doing when it was 9:27 when we came upon the stories. So this one comes to us from The Blaze. We talked about this a few weeks ago. The mother and daughter who are being charged because Roe versus Wade fell and she went to go get an abortion after 6 weeks. But it seems that more details have come out about this case, and I did want to take some time and talk a bit about this. Mother-daughter charged in a horrific illegal abortion case, but the media misled to push pro-abortion angle. From Chris Enlow. Media outlets are sounding the alarm. Ooh, stop tech censorship! Media outlets are sounding the alarm after Facebook allegedly handed over data to law enforcement, and resulting in a teenager and a mother being criminally charged for an abortion. Once again, this is an important aspect of what we're about to talk about here. If you are under the expectation that you will have any form of privacy whatsoever at all on a mainstream media, or mainstream rather social media outlet on the direct messaging system, and you can plan crimes in that, you are too stupid to commit crimes. Parag Agrawal, Mark Zuckerberg, and any other social media giant, whoever the CEO of Discord is, will fold like a cheap napkin if law enforcement comes and subpoenas them for your private messaging history. They will fold like a cheap napkin in a second. I am not going to endorse anything for trying to commit a crime, but if you're doing it on a mainline tech platform, if you're plotting it there, you're too stupid to commit a crime. And you deserve the consequences. But the headlines misleadingly suggest the teenagers being unfairly prosecuted. Or the media report, and we'll look at a couple of these. Vice. This is the data Facebook gave police to prosecute a teenager for abortion. Fortune. Facebook turned over chats used in the prosecution of 17-year-old abortion case, spurring worries the practice could become common. It is common. It's already common. HuffPo. There's some objective news. Facebook gave cops data to persecute Nebraska teenager who allegedly had an abortion. And it's the same thing. Facebook gave police their private data. Facebook turning over data. Facebook's helped cop persecute 17-year-old. But what's the truth? It is true Facebook turned over data to investigators, but the truth is the data was evidence investigators as requested, as they investigated a Nebraska mother and her teenage daughter who now face multiple criminal charges after they allegedly conducted an illegal abortion, burning and burying the unborn child. According to the Lincoln Journal-Star, a Norfolk, Nebraska police detective began investigating in April. So, long before the Roe versus Wade overturn, by the way. So we can throw that out of this already. After receiving a tip that the then 17-year-old Celeste Burgess, who is now 18, had miscarried a pregnancy, and that she and her mother, 41-year-old Jessica Burgess, disposed of the unborn child's body. When the detectives obtained the teenager's medical records, he learned that she'd been pregnant nearly 6 months. So, there again, we're not talking about a first trimester thing. I was expected to deliver the child in early July, but when he interviewed her, she claimed she had unexpectedly given birth to a stillborn child while in the shower. She explained that she and her mother then buried the body with the help of another man. When investigators interviewed that man, he disclosed that the mother and daughter allegedly burned the child. When authorities exhumed the body, they discovered evidence corroborating the man's claims. In light of the horrifying discovery, police charged the mother and daughter with felony removing, concealing, or abandoning of a dead human body, and 2 misdemeanors, concealing the death of another person and false reporting. Finally, investigators obtained Facebook messages in June after serving a warrant on the social media platform. The messages reportedly showed the mother and daughter had conspired to perform an illegal abortion and hide the evidence of their crime. The messages purportedly revealed the mother had obtained an abortion pills for her daughter. C. Burgess talks about how she can't wait to get the thing out of her body and reaffirms with J. Burgess that they will burn the evidence afterwards, one detective wrote in an affidavit. In fact, court documents published by Vice show that Burgess only delivered the allegedly stillborn after taking the abortion drug. And all the way back, by the way, in April, before the overturn of Roe, So, again, not only late term, 6 months in, but in a horrific manner as well. And then try to burn the evidence. Can't even imagine the state of mind that had been going on through that. After learning of the conspiracy, prosecutors slapped Burgess with 2 additional felonies, performing or attempting to perform abortion on a pregnancy more than 20 weeks and performing an abortion as a non-licensed doctor. Nebraska bans abortions after 20 weeks. So, yeah, they're sitting out here, especially with red Nebraska, and trying to make the claim that, oh, well, it was a 6-week abortion and she did it with abortion pills, and this was so recent because this happened after. No, none of this happened afterwards. You were lied to on this. But it is, again, another example of the media lying to you. From Fox 26 Houston. CPS employee caught on camera telling 14-year-old girl to become a prostitute. From Randy Wallace. I believe we actually have video of that as well. CPS would more than likely remove a child from a parent who told them to become a hooker. They should and they would, said family law attorney Mike Schneider. Keisha Basley has 9 kids. She turned to CPS to help her with her 14-year-old daughter, who says she's running away and causing trouble at school. My daughter told me the worker had been telling her she should do these things, so she said she decided to video her, Basley said. CPS is housing the girl at a hotel. She's one of dozens of foster kids living at hotels in Harris County. In the video, the girl tells CPS, the employee, she wants food. The CPS worker tells her to be a prostitute, and giving her an incentive to do so, and almost a threat of not having her needs being met if she didn't do what this woman very explicitly told her to do, Schneider said. If me, the parent, was to do something like this to my child, I would be bashed, said Basley. I'd be called a horrible parent. I would lose my kids. Well, you would lose your kids because you'd probably be in prison. Basley filed a formal complaint with CPS. This should not happen to girls in their care, she said. It should not happen. It's unacceptable. So let's watch the video that they have for this and see if we can get a clip of this. I don't know if there is a clip of the CPS employee saying to do this, but let's see what they have.
Came to Houston to personally apologize to Basley.
Only telling a 14-year-old girl in foster care to become a prostitute.
That's right, and this girl is one of hundreds of kids in CPS custody living in hotels all over the state. Fox 26's Randy Wallace live from Southwest Houston here with this story. Randy, the exclusive.
Yeah, Jonathan. Now, earlier this year, a federal judge scorned Child Protective Services for making kids available for prostitution in the CPS system. Now we have a case where an employee with that state agency is actually encouraging prostitution of a 14-year-old child.
You're gonna be a hoe, be a real hoe.
Wouldn't they remove a child from a parent that told their child to be a prostitute?
They should. And they would.
Keisha Basley has 9 kids. She turned to Child Protective Services to help her with her 14-year-old daughter, who she says was running away and causing trouble at school.
My daughter told me that the worker had been telling her that she should do these things. So she said she decided to video her.
CPS is housing the girl at a hotel. She's one of dozens in Harris County. In the video, she tells the CPS employee she wants food. The CPS worker tells her to be a prostitute. I mean, she was basically encouraging a 14-year-old girl to become a prostitute.
And giving her an incentive to do so, and almost a threat of not having her needs being met if she didn't do what this woman very explicitly told her to do.
If me, the parent, was to do something like this to my child, I would be bashed. I would be called a horrible parent. I would lose my kids.
Get your tail to that room.
Basley filed a formal complaint with CPS.
This should not happen to girls in their care. This should not happen. This is unacceptable.
Jamie Masters, the commissioner of CPS, came to Houston to personally apologize to Basley and her daughter.
I've never seen that happen before, where a commissioner of CPS comes in from Austin just to apologize about something that's horrible that's been done to a child and a parent involved with CPS.
I do not believe that that was genuine. I really don't.
It's bad enough if it's one rogue caseworker.
Made like $1,500. How much money that gave him?
It concerns me that it may be bigger than that, and they need to investigate this and make sure that it's not just one person, and they've got to figure out a way to protect these kids.
So it does look like, they didn't obviously play the clip out of that, but, they played it in the background. They were talking back over that. So it's, that is appalling. But once again, it's a reminder not to trust the state in issues like this, because, they're not putting out people who legitimately care, from what it seems. All right. What else do we have? Yes, you can hate everybody in this story. I will permit that. From the Blaze, once again, get your kids out of these schools. Georgia teacher arrested after repeated reports of sexual misconduct with students. From Candace Hathaway. A Georgia man, Scott Hooker, was arrested last week for sexual contact by a teacher. Hooker was a special education teacher. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. No. You can tell I didn't pre-read this article. No, not the special education teacher. No. No. Hooker was a special education teacher who taught at several schools in the Columbia County School District in Georgia. In 2017, a former student, Madison Cooksey, accused Hooker of hugging and sliding his hand down her back on Valentine's Day. A couple of months later, he was accused of harassing Cooksey. A formal letter of reprimand was placed in Hooker's file. The principal also recommended the superintendent take disciplinary action, including potentially firing the teacher. Over a week later, Superintendent Sandra Caraway responded, calling his actions worrisome. He was not removed from his position. Hooker was ordered not to be left alone with any female students beyond his duties. Even though the teacher admitted to hugging the student, the case was ruled no bill by the grand jury because of lack of evidence and eyewitness accounts. Nevertheless, Cooksey kept pursuing the case. Last week, after a 4-year battle, her case was brought before a grand jury again. They decided to charge Hooker for the 2017 incident. Hooker had developed a pattern of inappropriate interactions with his students. WRDW-TV reported that in 2015, Hooker was reprimanded after a high school student referred to him as Daddy. No! The situation was reported to the superintendent, and Hooker received a note stating that he should refrain from unprofessional contact with students. In 2021, he was reported by a student at Burke County High School. Later that same year, Hooker was accused of being inappropriate with another student at the same school. As a result, he was arrested and charged with improper sexual contact by a teacher, sexual battery, and simple battery. The school district released a statement last week addressing the case. It read, "The Columbia County School District will cooperate as needed in an investigation by the district attorney's office. Safety of the students and staff is a top priority. The Columbia County School District does not tolerate or condone sexual harassment in any capacity. We will continue to work with local law enforcement and the Columbia County School District Police whenever allegations of harassment of any kind are brought forward. In response to the incident, Cooksey said, "It's been hard emotionally, mentally, but I'm glad that I've done all this, and I'm glad that I could help future people down the road so this doesn't happen again." Why did it have to be a special education teacher? And there's no indication whether or not Cooksey herself was in the special education program. They don't specify that in this article. But the fact that he was a special education teacher in the school that I went to, there were a lot of people in the special education program that were non-communicable, or non-communicable. I don't know what the word is. Well, they couldn't really communicate. So if there's a dirtbag like this into that situation, and he's taking the chance on people who can come forward, and he has access to people who can't. Oh, I hate this. Oh, I hate this. Now I want to die. She wasn't the beginning, by the way. Now I want to die. Okay. Now that my faith in humanity is shattered. Atlantic op-ed claims Catholic rosary has become an extremist symbol. From Alexander Hall. Kinda has, but, you know, not for the reasons that the Atlantic is going to say, of course. Atlantic contributor Daniel Panetton declared that the Catholic rosary has become a symbol of religious radicalism. The rosary is a string of beads or knots used by Catholics as they pray, a sequence of prayers, but one writer warned that they've taken a far darker meaning in modern times. Just as the AR-15 rifle has become a sacred object for Christian nationalists in general, the rosary has acquired militaristic meaning for radical traditional or rad-trad Catholics. You mean based people? Panetton claimed on Sunday a piece titled "How the Rosary Became an Extremist Symbol." He added, "On this extremist fringe, rosary beads have been woven into conspiratorial politics and absolutist gun culture. These armed radical traditionalists have taken up spiritual notion the rosary can be a weapon in the fight against evil and turned into something dangerously literal." Panetton slammed the entire online ecosystem for disseminating imagery featuring Christian warriors, both historical and modern, suggesting that social media pages are saturated with images of rosaries, draped over firearms, warriors in prayer, Deus Vult, crusader memes, and exhortations for men to rise up and become church militants. I gotta send this over to Fong. I want to see what he has to say about this. I don't know if he's seen this or not. Let's put a pin in that, and we'll send that over to that Discord. What else do we have? Oh, here's one from the New York Post. OnlyFans bribed Meta to put thousands of porn stars on terror watch list, suits claim. From Theo Waite. OnlyFans squashed competitors in the online porn industry with the help of a bizarre scheme that bribed Meta employees to throw thousands of porn stars onto terrorist watch lists, according to a group of explosive lawsuits. Adult performers who sold X-rated photos and videos on rival sites saw their Instagram accounts falsely tagged as containing terrorist content, crippling their ability to promote their businesses and devastating their incomes, according to the suits. Sellers of smutty pictures were then shadow banned across Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and other sites, the suits allege. Targeted accounts also include businesses, celebrities, influencers, and others who have nothing to do with terrorism, according to the suits. When I heard my content may be listed on the terror watch list, I was outraged, Alana Evans, an adult performer and one of the plaintiffs in the California suit alongside Kelly Pierce and others, told the Post. I was angry because it affected my income when my social media traffic dropped significantly, and I was angry because I am the daughter of a veteran who fought for this country. Oh, he must be so proud. Evans and others were allegedly placed on a database of terror-linked accounts run by the Global Internet Forum to Counter Terrorism. The nonprofit group intended to stop the spread of mass shooting videos and other terrorist content across social media sites. After adult performers who used rival sites allegedly had their names added to the Internet Forum list, traffic to the rival sites drastically fell, the suits allege. Meanwhile, OnlyFans traffic and profits soared as the site became a household name. Law firm Milberg, Coleman, Bryson, Phillips, Grossman is representing the plaintiffs in the suits filed against Meta and OnlyFans. The lawyers claim that they have acquired a list of more than 21,000 Instagram accounts they say were unfairly tagged as potential terrorists. Previously unreported California Superior Court filings show. That is, well, that's social media coming back and using the government to take down their enemies. OnlyFans is, legitimately, it's a social media site. Legitimately. It's one that I don't want my nieces and nephews around, but it legitimately is a social media site. But really, honestly, one of the things that I do want to say about this as we go into this is, that industry of the highly commercialized $10 million of production equipment, cameras, zooms, angles, and whatnot, adult entertainment is over. These girls have this ability, especially if they're coming from the working class, to come and convince idiot simps who can't afford to go back out and spend the money that they're spending, that they actually care about their fans. Will actually communicate with them and become a pseudo girlfriend to them. Meanwhile, raking away the cash and going home and getting slammed by somebody who is actually an alpha chad. This whole industry is rotten down to its core, but you can see the competitiveness inside of it, and the dirty blows that they'll come to do so, and the fact that they'll use the government, that just makes this even worse. Let's see if we can't knock out a couple more here. Thing I like and things that I hate are down here at the end, but I want to grab a couple more of these. Immigration Reform Institute names New York City America's most dangerous sanctuary community. From Brandon Dre. Yeah. Fanning, I don't know how you still live there. Of course, me, coming from a town of less than 400 people originally, don't really know how you lived there in the first place either. Because that concept is so foreign to me, I can't even wrap my head around wanting to live in a place that's so population dense as New York City. It doesn't compute to me. And yet millions of people do it every day. And probably sit and wonder, hey, why can't I do my New England accent? I can usually drop right into that. I can't try to do a New England accent off of this. I'm not even going to try it. But a lot of these New Yorkers sit here and think, how can you sit out here and live in a place where you can stretch out your arms and you can't see your neighbor's house because it's too far away? They can't understand how I live the way that I want to either. Among many titles New York City has earned over the last 400 years, the Immigration Reform Law Institute announced Tuesday that America's melting pot has become the most dangerous sanctuary community in the nation. The 35-year-old institute, which advocates for reducing legal immigration from 1 million to over 300,000 a year, vows to defend the rights of individual Americans and their local communities from harm and challenges caused by mass migration to the U.S. In a recent report, the Institute listed the top 10 sanctuary communities that pose the significant dangers worldwide, with New York City leading the way. These communities have earned their places on this list because of incredibly poor leadership at the city, county, and state levels. Dale L. Wilcox, IRLI's executive director and general counsel, said in a statement, "Data overwhelmingly shows that sanctuary policies lead to more crime, fear, and death." Well, yeah, I mean, you're a sanctuary city, means you're bringing in people who broke the law to get here, which means they typically don't have a lot of qualms about breaking other laws. I'm just saying. The leaders of these communities should not escape accountability for the damage they've caused, Wilcox added. Their residents deserve much, much more. For New York City, it's not hard to see how the Big Apple turned rotten over the last 8 years under former Mayor Bill de Blasio's radical sanctuary policies. Almost every day, the public sees cell phone videos, surveillance footage, and reports that expose rampant theft, violent attacks, rapes, and murders, sweeping across the city from citizens and non-citizens. New mayor and former New York Police Department Officer Eric Adams has pledged to clean up his predecessor's disregard for community safety. Still, the rhetoric to crack down on rampant crime falls on deaf ears when he openly supported the city's sanctuary status and continued de Blasio's pro-illegal immigration policies, such as allowing the non-citizen voting law. And yes, now his chickens are coming home to roost, and after only a couple dozen immigrants showed up here, he's hitting the panic switch and sounding the alarm and saying, "How can we even do this? How can Abbott send these people over here?" Yeah, I don't know how baller my house would have to be able to accept living in that close a proximity to other people. I mean, I didn't like the greater Boston area for a lot of the same reason. I saw signs in Eastern Mass that said thickly settled. I'm like, what am I doing? This doesn't compute in my mind. I can't understand this concept. It's not just New York, it's any major urban area. I say the same stuff about Milwaukee. And Kenosha even. I tried that for 10 years. It wasn't for me. I don't get it. I don't understand how you people do it. I really don't. Here's a quick hitter for us. Thomas Massey tweets out, "Thank you, Rep. Dan Bishop, for co-sponsoring my bill to eliminate the Federal Department of Education, H.R. 899. The bill is one sentence. The Department of Education shall terminate on December 31st, 2022. And to show the proof that there is no major pork in this," and by the way, this got railed up and down by advocates of more government who hate Thomas Massey for trying to shrink the government. Here is H.R. 899 to terminate the Department of Education. A bill to terminate the Department of Education. Section 1. Termination of the Department of Education. The Department of Education shall terminate on December 31st, 2022. That's it. That's the tweet. Will it happen? Absolutely not. Do I want it to happen? Yes, I think the state should be, and the localities especially, should be involved in their educational decisions, not the nation. Because what works in California doesn't work in southern Wisconsin. Transgender woman rejected by every sorority at U of Alabama. I'm sad because I wanted to be a part of the sisterhood. From Dave Urbanski. A transsexual woman was rejected by every sorority at the University of Alabama during a student recruitment, the New York Post reported, citing social media posts from the student in question. Grant Sykes earlier this week wrote on Instagram about being passed over by each of the college's nearly 20 sororities. Unfortunately, this chapter is closed. The recruitment journey is over for me, Sykes wrote. Being dropped from my last house this morning during primary recruitment at the University of Alabama doesn't come as a surprise, considering out of the almost 20 chapters, I was dropped by every single one, except 2 before day 1. Sykes added, I'm hopeful for a future where everyone is welcome for just being themselves everywhere. If you're going through a hard time today, remember that life is too short to ponder on the things lost. Choose happiness and always look for the positive things throughout life. Move on. See the good, see the bad, hope for the best, brave for the worst. Sykes received nearly 36,000 likes on the Instagram post as of Wednesday morning. In a TikTok video, Sykes called the unanimous rejection extremely upsetting and added, I'm sad because I wanted to be a part of a sisterhood and more than that, a community. Let's see if we can play this.
Hi guys, it's Grant. Today was...
Okay, I think I figured out what happened. Go away.
Pref round, and I got a phone call this morning and I was cut. It is extremely upsetting and I'm sad because I wanted to be a part of a sisterhood and more than that, a community. And, you know, it's kind of just, I keep on waiting for my Rokai to call me and be like, just kidding. You can bring it on to bid day tomorrow because tomorrow's bid day. I don't even know what to say. Thank you all so much for following along. Here we are. I posted a thing on my Instagram talking a little bit more about, you know, kind of what happened as of right now. You can click the hyperlink in my TikTok bio, or you can just look me up. It's Grant Eli Sykes, just my full name. And yeah, so thank you for all the love and support, and I love you.
That is a dude in makeup. That thing didn't even change its name. And you expect it to just waltz into a sorority like that. Now, again, as long as it's adults doing it, I really don't have that much of a problem with transsexuality. As long as they're keeping it away from the kids first and foremost. But if you want to chop off your junk and throw on a dress and sterilize yourself, that's on you. But this person is not passing, has put no effort into this. This is a dude who was looking for a way, and I can't read this person's mind, but again, not even with a name change. This sounds like a dude who was looking for a way to get in and share the shower with his sorority sisters. This is a dude who woke up one day and put on makeup and said, I can get into a sorority. Hey guys, I found a way to go and see naked chicks all the time. To always have access to the sorority house. I mean, at the very least, Rachel Nix at least changed her name. That's a dude in makeup right there. Yeah, I can't imagine this. You know, we're out here having the pillow fights or whatever goes on in the sorority house. I mean, I've been in the brothel at Carthage before. I've seen some of it. And then just the one girl walking around shirtless with the abs rippling. And the big swangin' one wandering around. Or at full mast, probably, at that point. And again, I do anticipate that if this person had made an attempt to be passing, we may be talking about a different story right now. But this is a person, I mean, you can even look at what's on the screen. That is clearly a man in a skirt. Make it plaid and give him some bagpipes and you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. let's see. Well, it's 9:35, so we actually have to get out of here. But before we do, the last thing that we always do on Thursday is we talk about a thing that I like and a thing that I hate. And I only have one of each this time. You know, the last couple weeks I've had a couple things that I hate. We could almost talk about this as a thing that I hate too, but it's kind of in the middle because he, she, it, they, them, zers, there got rejected by every single one of these sororities for clear and obvious reasons. But we will go to thing that I like and thing that I hate. And thing that I like today, this actually showed up about midweek last week. What's the date? August 10th. So 8 days ago. View profiles without pronouns. Dating app called The Right Stuff will cater to conservative singles. From Alex Nitzberg. A dating app meant to help conservatives connect with fellow right-wingers is aptly titled The Right Stuff. With the nation's divided political climate, the app could appeal to conservatives whose views differ dramatically from those held by people on the political left, and who are hoping to find a companion who shares their right-leaning worldview. The Right Stuff was created for conservatives to connect in authentic and meaningful ways. Other dating apps have gone woke. We bring people together with shared values and similar passions, the joinrightstuff.com website declares. Quit swiping, scrolling, and trolling the wrong people. There are people out there just like you. I would actually probably try this. Connect with people who aren't offended by everything the site advertises. View profiles without pronouns. Your next match is here. In a video advertising the app, Ryan McEnany, the sister of Trump-era White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany, said the app will launch in September and is invite only. The app will apparently cater to two real genders. I wonder how I get invite to this. I'm going to reach out to them. This is actually something I might look into. In the video, McEnany said it's free to use the app, adding, "For my ladies, you'll never have to pay because we get all get premium subscriptions for simply inviting a couple friends. Gentlemen, if you want access to premium, that's on you," she also says. They're the only two options, ladies and gentlemen. We need to get back to the right way of dating, she says. Earlier this year, Axios reported that according to the source, Peter Thiel was pumping $1.5 million into a seed round for the right-wing dating app. I remember talking about this briefly earlier. It's an important, undeserved market, Daniel Huff, co-founder of the dating platform, said according to The Hill. Liberals own the education, media corporations, and we can't let them control our personal relationships. Well, and again, it's invite only, so I think somebody would have to actually watch Contemporary and see that while I am, for the most part, leave me alone and not really that conservative, I'm considered to be Nazi by most of the people around Madison where I am, and I don't know how, if, and when this could possibly even thrive in an area like this. But I also know that sitting back on here and having one thing, even though it is for charity, one external characteristic sitting out here, that might make it impossible for people to believe my actual intents on going on to something like this, because, when they come out and they see something like this out here, it's hard. Oh, well, a conservative always has close cropped hair and neatly trimmed beard or clean cut and all this, and and I do typically, except for the last couple of years, do keep my hair on a close cropped basis, but just when they closed out the salons and the barbershops, I said, you know what, I'm going to do something good for somebody else, and we're going on 2 years strong here at this point. I think in September it'll be 2 years, because I tried and I went out and got it cut anyway once they opened everything back up, and I'm like, you know what, I still got to do this one more time before it all turns gray. But regardless, it makes it really hard for people to take me seriously as something other than a raging, flaming liberal. Because they see the long hair, I'm like, oh, yeah, he's liberal. He's a hippie. And while I'm, I guess, kind of socially liberal, like do whatever you want, just keep it off my lawn. My big thing is stop spending, and I will conduct my house in a more conservative manner. But that's what we're seeing for that. We'll see if that brings us good things, or if it's something else that the App Store shut down as hate speech, which I could anticipate seeing like that. The web host servers, the App Stores, especially with the McEnany involved. Oh, this is hate speech. We need to shut this down. And now for a thing that I hate. This is a message. This is already bothering me. The reason I keep my hair tied back all the time when I wear the headphones. But this a message from our friends over at Cards Against Humanity. And we read, "Your state sucks. Dear customers living in Alabama, Arizona, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Indiana, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, West Virginia, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. Today, we're releasing some new packs. But while the packs were being printed, the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, and your state immediately turned itself into a dystopian forced birth hellscape. So now we're donating 100% of the profits from your orders to your nightmare state to the National Network for Abortion Funds, plus $100,000 right now. To help the people most screwed over by the Republicans in your state government. We don't need your money." Well, that's good, because after this, you're not going to be getting it. We also wanted to know what on earth people in your state were thinking, so we asked them a few questions. You will unfortunately believe what we found. For the love of God, don't forget to vote. Cards Against Humanity. Going with this, from NBC 15 News, and it doesn't say where this is out of. Cards Against Humanity donating sales from forced birth Republican hellholes to abortion funds. From Zachary Rogers. The popular card game, Cards Against Humanity, is sending all of its sales from several red states to abortion funds, the game's makers announced. Cards Against Humanity LLC made the announcement in a tweet on Wednesday, adding that it would give additional $100,000 to the National Network of Abortion Funds. Today we're releasing some new packs. We're donating 100% of the profits from all orders to forced birth Republican hellholes to abortion funds, the company said in its tweet. We're also donating an extra $100,000 right now. Their tweet, the game makers linked to a page on their website titled Your State Sucks. On that page, the company addresses its customers in states like Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Ohio, Tennessee, Texas, and Utah. The National Network of Abortion Funds helps to pay for abortions to those who can't afford them. The organization is also sometimes covering the costs for when abortion is outlawed, that person's state. The president signed an EO to protect those traveling for abortions following Roe's overturning. One of the few actual legal uses of an EO, by the way, because that's already in the Constitution. Interstate travel cannot be restricted. Why do I hate this? Well, number one, they're coming out here and they're alienating probably half of their customer base. But furthermore, this is a company who really has no shame. And if this was literally anybody else in the world who was printing cards, like what these people are printing on these cards, they'd be canceled in a second. I really have a hard time believing that they actually care about abortion rather than just running out and virtue signaling to go and get a bunch more money from liberal left-wing causes out of their mommy and daddy's trust funds. And by the way, it seems to be little trust funders who like to go spend money on this asinine game. I've played the game, and it is somewhat fun if you know your audience, but if you're just out there, or not know your audience, but if you know the people that are playing with you, you can have some fun with it, trying to guess who is who and whatnot. But I also find it really, really hard to conflate the care and compassion for people in abortion hellholes and forced birth hellholes who print cards that advocate for baby rape. I'm just saying. But it is what it is. And they are, as Shalom says, they are fully against humanity. They're living up to their name. And what's the worst thing about this is there are enough places online that you can play this game for free. Without having to give them money. If you really want to torment yourself and see the filth that's printed on these cards, you can play it for free without giving them money. And no ads either, by the way, in most places. Gulf Coast, by the way, I'm thinking this is somewhere in Houston. Also with a 93-degree temperature. But that's it. Thing I like and thing that I hate. Sit out of here for the day. Where's the outro? Alright, so that was an interesting program. But we're going to head out of here for the day. Thanks everybody who came by, chatted in the live chat, everybody who kept us honest, on point, and going here. We'll be back here tomorrow with more news and more headlines. And tonight, when I get done with work, I'll be going through and writing in the notebook everybody who chatted in the live chat throughout the day as well. So you'll get your name read if you chatted throughout the week. And also, tomorrow we'll go through some of your live chat and see what it is that you guys have to say about the news stories that are coming up. What are we covering tomorrow? I am not sure. I know that I grabbed one here. We'll be talking about the Women's March, probably. That's up here. We'll probably be talking more about the Inflation Reduction Act. We'll talk probably a little bit about Liz Cheney because people are still freaking out about that. And maybe Mar-a-Lago. We don't know. We'll see what happens with that. Maybe we'll have the smoking gun tomorrow and we'll see the Frog March. I'll hold my breath. I promise. Anyway, we're going to head out of here for the day. Thanks, everybody. Again, we will see you here tomorrow for more Contemporary. And until then, I am Jay Edgar. And this is Contemporary. Take care.